Hey, what's up, good people? I'm QC. Welcome to another edition of Talking and Grubbing. Before I start, I will be back in front of the camera real soon, giving the latest sports news and commentary while I eat some good food. I'm working on a few Grub of the Week videos and working on that special video on how you can help me grow Talking and Grubbing, so be on the lookout for those. I'm not going to give any shout outs to any YouTubers on this video, but I'll definitely give some on the next one. Now, I meant to do this video earlier in the week, but I was battling this bad cold. Well, I'm still battling with it. I'm getting better, but I'm not where I want to be. Somebody gave me their code at work. I know who it is, and they shall remain nameless. Now, the NFL Divisional playoffs is all set for this weekend, so let's get into the matchup, starting in the AFC with the Tennessee Titans versus the New England Patriots. Now, the defending Super Bowl champion New England Patriots are trying to get back to the Super Bowl and repeat for the second time in over 10 years. Tom Brady was Tom Brady as always this regular season. In fact, he was the runner-up for the MVP as he finished the regular season with over 4,000 passing yards, 32 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. Rob Gronkowski, the best tight end in the NFL, finished with over 1,000 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns. Brandon Cooks, the wide receiver that they acquired from the New Orleans Saints in the offseason, he finished with over 1,000 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns. Now, the biggest surprise for the Patriots this season, well, late in the season, was the running game that was anchored by Rex Burkhead and Dion Lewis. They finished with over 1,000 rushing yards combined and 11 touchdowns. The Patriots, they're top 10 in every offensive category. They're number 1 in total offense, number 1 receiving yards, number 2 in passing yards, and number 10 in rushing yards. Now, on the flip side, the Patriots defense started off the regular season, for lack of a better word, crappy. But they improved as the regular season went along. They're led by the defensive end Trey Flowers. He had 6.5 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. Malcolm Butler, the cornerback, who was the hero of Super Bowl 49 to seal their 4th Super Bowl title for the Patriots against the Seattle Seahawks, he has 2 interceptions and 3 forced fumbles. Now, the Patriots are 29th in total defense, 30th against the pass, 20th against the run. On the flip side, the Tennessee Titans, they're coming off of a hell of a comeback win versus the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead last Saturday in the AFC wildcard game. Marcus Mariota finished with 205 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, including the highlight reel touchdown where he tipped it to himself, and an interception. Derrick Henry, who's filling in for the injured DeMarco Murray, went full beast mode and had 156 rushing yards and a touchdown. The veteran wide receiver Eric Decker, he had a touchdown. And the tight end Delanie Walker had 74 receiving yards. The Titans are 23rd in total offense, 23rd in passing yards, 15th in rushing yards. But the Titans, I think they have a very underrated defense that's led by the legendary defensive coordinator Dick LeBeau, who was the inventor of the steel curtain defense that won 4 Super Bowls for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 70s, and he was also the defensive coordinator under Bill Cowher and Mike Tomlin for a little while. They're led by the defensive end Jarrell Casey, who has 6.5 sacks. In fact, he made one hell of a play that sealed the win for the Titans. The free safety Kevin Bayard has 8 interceptions, and Brian Aragnapo, the outside linebacker, has 3 forced fumbles. Now, the Titans are ranked 13th in total defense, 25th against the pass, but they're 4th against the run. Now, in this game, excuse me, for the Titans to have a chance to win against the Patriots and pull off one of the biggest upsets in NFL playoff history, it's going to have to be their defense. They're going to have to get to Brady early, force them into some turnovers, as well as force them into some long downs like third and 10, third and 11, third and 12. Hell, even find ways to draw penalties on this Patriots offense because they're too dynamic to just be shut down. With Gronk on one side and Brandon Cooks on the other, and also Rex Burkhead and Deion Lewis can also churn up some big yards on the ground and get into the end zone. And on the flip side, Rex Burkhead not only can do it on the ground, he can do it on special teams as well, as he has a few punt returns for touchdowns this season. Excuse me. Now, on the flip side, the Titans offense, their offense can come and go at times. As an example, in the AFC wildcard game against the Chiefs last week, the Titans offense couldn't hit anything between them and St. Louis, but they put it all together in the second half and had a hell of a comeback and pulled off one of the not one of the biggest playoff upsets, but one of the biggest comebacks in NFL playoff history. Marcus Mariota has to be poised. He has to take care of the ball. He can't have any turnovers. His offensive line has to protect him. Derrick Henry definitely has to pick up the momentum from the AFC wildcard game and bring it into this game and, run up the ball and run the ball hard at this Patriots defense. Excuse me. Now on the flip side, the Patriots definitely have to send a message to this young Tennessee Titans team very early. Brady has to, just be himself as always, his playoff self. Rob Gronkowski just has to be himself. As a matter of fact, most of the last two Super Bowls, Rob Gronkowski hasn't really played. Last year in the Super Bowl, Rob Gronkowski didn't play because, his injury. So I think he definitely wants to make a statement and have a great game. Also, Brandon Cooks definitely have to get him involved on offense. And on the flip side, with Deion Lewis and Rex Burkhead, definitely got to give them carries very early in the offense so you can shorten the field. Now on defense, the Patriots definitely had to get to Marcus Mariota pretty early because he can not only make plays with his arm, he can also make plays with his legs because he's a nice runner. And also, Derrick Henry definitely going to have to shut him down and shut down Delaney Walker, who I think is an underrated tight end in the NFL. So the Titans, their offense is just too inconsistent for me. They have a pretty good defense, but I don't trust their offense. So I'm picking the Patriots to win this game in a blowout. Now, on to the next divisional playoff game. The Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers had another tremendous regular season. Ben Roethlisberger was Big Ben as usual. He finished the regular season with over 4,000 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, but he had 14 interceptions. Excuse me. The other two killer bees, wide receiver Antonio Brown, who's one of the best, if not the best wide receiver in the NFL, finished with over 1,500 receiving yards and 9 touchdowns. Le'Veon Bell, one of the best running backs in the NFL, finished with over 1,200 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns. But the biggest surprise for the Steelers offense was the rookie, Juju Smith-Schuster, who just came out of nowhere in the middle of the season and has been balling ever since. He finished with 917 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns. The Steelers ranked 3rd in total offense, 3rd in passing yards, but 20th in rushing yards. Now, that's very baffling to me because if you've been watching the Steelers for decades, their identity on offense has been running the ball, with great running backs such as Jerome Bettis and Franco Harris. That's just surprising that the Steelers are 20th in rushing. Excuse me. Now, as always, the Steelers have a great defense that's anchored by the defensive end Cameron Hayward out of Ohio State. He leads the team with 12 sacks. He also has 2 forced fumbles. Ryan Shazier, the linebacker, has 2 forced fumbles and 3 interceptions. The safety, Sean Davis, has 3 interceptions and 1 forced fumble. The Steelers are 10th in total defense, 5th against the pass, 10th against the run. Now, with the Jaguars, They're coming off of a grind out win versus the Buffalo Bills 10-3 in last Sunday's AFC wildcard game in Jacksonville. Now, Blake Bortles, he did not have the best game in the world. In fact, he only had 87 passing yards and the go-ahead touchdown. But what he didn't do with his arm, he made up for it in his legs, as he had 88 rushing yards. In fact, he's the fourth quarterback in NFL playoff history to have more rushing yards than passing yards. Excuse me. Leonard Fournette, the rookie running back out of LSU, had a great regular season as he finished with over 1,000 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns, but he only had 57 rushing yards in the AFC wildcard game against the Bills. The wide receiving core of Marquise Lee and Allen Hurns only had 2 targets combined in that game. Now, the Jaguars are 6th in total offense, 17th in passing, but they're 1st in rushing. But their tremendous strength is their defense that's anchored by the 2 defensive ends, Calais Campbell and Yannick Ngakoue. I hope I said his name right. Campbell has 14 sacks and 3 fumble recoveries, while Ngakoue has 12 sacks and 6 fumble recoveries. And they have a tremendous secondary that's led by Deshaun Gibson, Barry Church, and Jalen Ramsey. They have 12 interceptions combined. The Jaguars are 2nd in total defense, 1st against the pass, but they're 21st against the run. Now, for the Jaguars to have a great chance of winning this game, Blake Bortles has to step up. I'm not saying he has to be Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, or Joe Flacco, but he can't be what he's been all of the regular season and what he was in that wild card game against the Buffalo Bills. He has to be a little bit better. He has to find open receivers. Definitely got to get Lee and Hurns involved and give them a couple more targets. But on the flip side, the Jaguars coach, Doug Marrone, has to get Leonard Fournette involved more in the offense and give him more carries against this Steelers rushing attack. He can't have another 57 rushing yard game. He's too good for that. Also, the Jaguars defense, they cannot let the 3Bs beat them. Now, you can contain at least one of them, but you cannot let all 3 beat you. You know, see if you can force Roethlisberger into some turnovers or into some long downs. You know, like a 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12. Also, you can't let Le'Veon Bell just go off and run all over your defense. Or also, you have to contain Brown. I know you can't shut him down, but at least contain him. Dare Martavius Bryant or Smith Schuster to beat you. Excuse me. Now, for the Steelers to win and advance to the AFC Championship game, Ben Roethlisberger has to be what he's been many times before in the playoffs, and that's clutch. You know, he has to get the Steelers offense early and running early. You know, get to some short passes. Also, gotta feed Le'Veon Bell and gotta feed Antonio Brown. Also has to find ways to get Smith Schuster involved, as well as get the Heinz Field crowd involved with those ugly, terrible towels. I'm sorry, Steelers fans, I had to go there. But also, on the flip side, the Steelers defense has to get tremendous pressure on Blake Bortles, force him into some turnovers, as well as into some long downs and some long field position. Make him and that Jacksonville Jaguars offense go the length of the field in order to score. Excuse me. Now, I know some Steelers fans that look at Jacksonville Jaguars as a scrub team, but I've told them this is not a scrub team. This is a pretty good team. So I don't think this is just going to be an easy win for the Steelers, but I'm still going to take the Steelers in a close game at home. Let's flip it over to the NFC Divisional playoffs, starting with the Atlanta Falcons versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Excuse me. Now, the Eagles, they finished the regular season with the best record in the NFC. Carson Wentz was named this year's NFL MVP, rightfully so, because he had a hell of a campaign before he went out with a season-ending ACL injury. He had over 3,000 passing yards, 33 touchdowns, and only 7 interceptions. Now, Nick Foles has been pretty solid in his place as he's had 537 passing yards and 5 touchdowns. Excuse me. But the Eagles also have a nice wide receiving core in Alshon Jeffrey and Nelson Aguilar. Jeffrey had 789 receiving yards and 9 touchdowns, while Aguilar had 768 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns. But their heart and soul of the offense is tight end Zach Ertz. He had 824 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns. The Eagles, they're third in total offense, 13th in passing yards, but they're 13th in rushing yards. They also have a pretty good defense that's led by the young defensive end Brandon Graham, who has 9.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. The veteran Fletcher Cox, the defensive end, has 5.5 sacks. And they have a pretty good secondary in Rodney McLeod, Jalen Mills, and Ronald Darby. And they have 9 interceptions combined. They're 4th in total defense, 17th against the pass, but they're 1st against the run. On the flip side, the Falcons, they're coming off of a tremendous road win against the LA Rams last week in the NFC wildcard game. Matt Ryan, he had 218 passing yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Excuse me. But the MVP of this game was Julio Jones. He had 94 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. Devontae Freeman had a nice game with 66 rushing yards and 1 touchdown. Now, excuse me, you got to give a lot of credit to that Falcons defense for, leading the team in that wild card game, as they held the best offense in the NFL to only 13 points. They also got 2 key fumbles on special teams. Excuse me. And also, they have some good speed on that perimeter that could definitely pressure the quarterback and even get to the quarterback. They're led by the linebacker Vic Beasley Jr., who has 5 sacks. The cornerback Desmond Trufant has 2 fumble recoveries, 2 interceptions. And Brooks Reed and Grady Jarrett, the defensive end and defensive tackle, have 8 sacks combined. The Falcons are 9th in total defense, 12th against the pass, but they're 9th against the run. Now, excuse me. Now, for some reason, I know that the Eagles, they're big underdogs at home. I don't trust Nick Foles in this game because, he could definitely be turnover prone as well. And I think that the rhythm, excuse me, this cold, excuse me, y'all. I think that the rhythm that the receiving core has with Foles isn't the same that they had with Wentz, And also, the Eagles don't really have a pretty good running game either. I mean, LeGarrette Blount, the veteran running back, he's only had 2 touchdowns on the season. But, excuse me, but if the Eagles want to win this game, it's going to have to be their defense. Graham and Cox, they're definitely going to have to get pressure on Matt Ryan, also force him into some turnovers. The secondary is going to have to shut down Julio Jones and dare other players to beat them. Now, on the flip side with Atlanta, Matt Ryan just has to keep on doing what he's doing. He's got to continue what he did against the Rams and bring it into this game and get Julio Jones going early and often. And also get Devontae Freeman and the other running back, Tevin Coleman, going early and often as they can. Excuse me. But I know that the Eagles, they have the number 1 seed in the NFC. But I'm going to take the Falcons to win this one on the road. Now, let's get to the last divisional playoff matchup. The New Orleans Saints versus the Minnesota Vikings. Now, the Vikings finished the regular season with the 2nd best record in the NFC. Case Keenum has gone under the radar as he finished the regular season with over 3,000 passing yards, 22 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Latavius Murray has had a little bit of a comeback year with 842 rushing yards and 8 touchdowns. Now, the Vikings, they have an underrated wide receiving core that's pretty good in Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs. Thielen finished the regular season with over 1,200 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns. Stephon Diggs finished the regular season with 849 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns. And they also have a tight end that's pretty underrated in Kyle Rudolph, who finished with 532 receiving yards, but he has 8 touchdowns. The Vikings are 11th in total offense, 11th in passing yards, but they're 7th in rushing yards. Excuse me. But they also have a tremendous defense that's led by the veteran defensive end Everson Griffin, who has 13 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. Daniel Hunter, the other defensive end, has 7 sacks and 1 forced fumble. And they have a pretty good secondary in Harrison Smith, Xavier Rhodes, and Trey Waynes, as they all combine for 9 interceptions on the season. Excuse me. They're first in total defense, second against the pass, and second against the run. On the flip side, the Saints, they're coming off of a great NFC wildcard win at home versus their NFC South rival, the Carolina Panthers, last Sunday. Drew Brees was his MVP self. He had 376 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. The great running back core, Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara, had 45 rushing yards combined in that game, but their wide receiving core picked up the slack. Michael Thomas had 131 receiving yards, excuse me, and Ted Ginn Jr. had 115 receiving yards and 1 touchdown. But, excuse me, the Saints defense has been pretty underrated. They're led by the young rookie cornerback Marshawn Lattimore, a Cleveland native, who has 5 interceptions. Cameron Jordan, the defensive end, leads the team with 13 sacks. Alex Okafor, the other defensive end, has 4.5 sacks, and safety Kitty Varcrow has 3 interceptions. Now the Saints are 17th in defense, 15th against the pass, 16th against the run. Now this game, excuse me, this should be a pretty good game. Both quarterbacks can get theirs. Both running backs can definitely go off, as well as both wide receivers. But which one is going to win out? Is it going to be the Saints' potent offense or the Vikings' dominant defense? That's a good question. But I'm going to take the Vikings at home because of that defense. It's not going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be a very close game. Hell, it might even come down to overtime. Anyways, that's my preview. Like, comment, share the video. Till next time, y'all have a good one. Love y'all to life. Deuces. Hey, what's up, good people? This is QC once again. Now that you saw the video, subscribe to the channel. When you do, please click the bell icon so you can be down with the notification squad. Why miss new videos from me and be mad? Let your friends and family miss new videos from me and they'll be mad. Also, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Like me on Facebook. All links are in the description box below. Till next time, y'all have a good one. Love y'all to life. Deuces.